Rain was hammering the steel gate, coming down so hard it felt like the mountain itself wanted to wash me out. The U-Haul was stuck at the bottom, wheels spinning in the mud, and Linda, yeah, I'll never forget her voice, screaming at me to open the damn thing. Thunder rolled over the ridge like an old war movie, and behind her the sheriff's SUV idled, lights spinning, shadows slashing. Through the trees, her parents were huddled in that truck cab, faces ghost white, staring at the swollen creek and the padlock I'd just snapped shut with the kind of finality that you can't argue with. Tom just stopped, Linda shouting about family rights, emergency shelter, as if saying it made it true. Meanwhile, I stood there, key dangling, rain soaking through to my bones, and thought how, just 2 months ago, this old mountain house had seemed like a sanctuary, not a battleground. I bought that house on a hunch, you know? Drove up a winding road with a rented pickup, following an old paper map. The place was hidden, roofs sagging, windows boarded up, mossy for sale by owner, sign nailed crooked to a tree. No neighbors for a mile. The old logger who sold it to me shoved a folder in my hands, original deed, maps from the 50s, and said, "You keep up the road, it's yours." He wanted it gone fast. I paid cash, picturing peaceful mornings, slow repairs, maybe a new start. That first trip up as owner, Linda was already waiting. She showed up at the curve, clipboard and attitude, waving me down like she was traffic control. "This is a community-maintained road," she declared before I even rolled my window down. "We vote on renovations, we vote on parking, we even vote on who stays overnight." She had a faded mountain view. "Community, signed to prove it." I just smiled, held up my deed, told her I owned the last parcel. She snorted, claimed her parents always got to use my cabin, called it a tradition. I shrugged it off. Figured she was just quirky. Turns out, quirky doesn't cover it. By week 2, I'd realized Linda was a full-time menace. Every load of supplies I brought, there she was, phone out, muttering about permits. Notes under my windshield about quiet hours, landscape harmony. Once she just walked right onto my porch, poking around like a home inspector, said my guest house used to be a communal shelter. I finally dug through the logger's papers, found a surveyor's letter. The road and the gate were private, owned by whoever held the deed at the top. That would be me. So the first thing I fixed was the gate, welded a new lock, made it solid. Life became sweat and sawdust. Patch a wall, clear brush, listen to blue jays in the morning. It felt like maybe I'd pulled off something good. But Linda wasn't done. She started hinting her parents were losing their place in town. Just a month, just until they find something. I said no, at first gently, then not so much. She said, "The association will decide." I told her again, no legal claim. She just waved it off and, I swear, started a vote-by-mail campaign against me. Then came the official county complaint. She claimed I was running an unsafe construction site. The inspector rolled up, took one look, laughed, said Linda did this to everyone. I started documenting everything, calls, letters, even her staring through the trees. My lawyer confirmed it. Road, gate, land, all mine. No association, no rights, no loopholes. I put up cameras, reinforced the lock, left a polite, "No trespassing." Note for Linda. She ignored it. Instead, she ramped up the pressure. Contractors called, saying Linda warned them of ongoing litigation. She told delivery guys the road was condemned. I just kept working, let her dig her own hole. One night, a storm rolled in, rain coming sideways, creek rising. I saw Linda's car and a U-Haul rolling up the road, headlights bouncing in the mist. I pulled on my jacket, grabbed my phone, and met them at the gate. The truck was stuck, her parents pale as ghosts. "Open the gate now," Linda screamed. "My parents are elderly." The sheriff rolled up, face blank, rain sheeting off his hat. I snapped the lock shut, calm as could be. "Private property," I said. "You were warned." Lightning lit the whole scene, Linda's parents realizing too late. They were pawns in some crazy campaign. The sheriff was already prepping his clipboard. For the first time, I felt like I really owned that mountain. The siege wasn't over, not by a long shot. After the storm, the air was washed clean, but I felt this strange clarity. The mountain house loomed in the mist, fresh, siding gleaming. I remembered those first mornings, coffee on the camp stove, planning repairs at that old oak table. My first job had been the gate, replacing the ancient hinges, welding steel posts deep into the clay. Cameras, motion sensors, battery backups. Linda sat in her car at the bend, filming it all, muttering about community rights. She handed me a packet of bylaws once, scribbled on printer paper, no signatures. I took a photo, handed them back. That's when she started seeing me as the enemy, not a neighbor. Renovations sped up. New windows, rebuilt steps, plumbing redone. Linda's complaints grew wilder. Noise, parking, unsafe wood piles. Once, she brought 2 fake inspectors, just buddies from the local lodge. I kicked them off the property. After that, she tried a new angle, called my hardware store, pretended to be my project manager, tried to cancel my orders. The clerk caught it and called me, so I switched to picking up everything myself. Double the work, but it cut her off. By then, I carried a notebook everywhere, jotting down every incident, every word she said. My lawyer's idea. At night, I'd pore over old deeds, maps, finding, time and again, that every inch of road and gate was rightfully mine. Found an affidavit from a surveyor 30 years back, stating the private road and gate were exclusive to the top parcel. Case closed. Then Linda tried the emergency card. Again, showed up while I was rebuilding the guest house, claimed her parents needed shelter just for a few days. I told her no. She left, threatening more complaints. 2 days later, the inspector came, shrugged, said Linda was famous for this. Offhandedly, he mentioned she'd tried to get the county to make my road public, denied flat. That told me everything I needed to know. Linda was playing for keeps. So I doubled down, copied every document, left sets with my lawyer, put up more cameras. The house started to feel like a fortress, but it was satisfying work. Stronger, warmer, more mine every day, even as Linda circled like a wolf outside the light. She started sending official-looking letters, her own letterhead, demanding dues, meetings, shared access. I tossed them in the fire. Then it was guilt. Her parents needed mountain air, they were attached to the place. I got it, but I wasn't falling for it. Sometimes, I'd imagine her at her kitchen table, plotting with a glass of wine and a stack of legal pads. The picture almost made me laugh. But every morning, I braced for another stunt, boundary walking with a surveyor, hammering fresh stakes, repainting old blazes. Contractors started to see through her. One even recorded her berating him, then played it back for me. We laughed, but it stiffened my spine. Slowly, the tide turned. Mail carriers started delivering without hassle. Hardware store owner asked about my porch repairs. Even the sheriff, bumping into me in town, just shook his head and said, "She at it again?" Then came the storm, the U-Haul, the mud, the confrontation at the gate. I'll never forget that night. I offered to call a tow for the truck before the road washed out. Linda's parents, by then, were pleading with her to leave. The sheriff said, "Do you want to file a trespass complaint?" I just wanted them gone before the weather trapped them. Eventually, everyone backed down. The convoy reversed down the hill. The sheriff's lights faded in the rain. I stood at the gate, soaked and spent, but satisfied. Not a victory lap, just a calm, final line drawn. After that, Linda went quiet, but it was the stillness of a snake before a strike. I installed more cameras, walked the boundary every evening, prepped for anything. 3 letters arrived, all from advocates, asking me to let her parents stay. All clearly her work. I handed them to my lawyer. Contractors who once tiptoed now came freely. The county inspector dropped off the last certificate, drank coffee on my porch, marveled at how solid the place felt. And then Linda filed one last lawsuit, claiming a historic easement, calling me an unlawful occupant. My lawyer and I built a binder, thicker than a phone book, every deed, survey, report, letter. The judge took one look, thumped the gavel, and said, "This property is not yours." Just like that. Karen, sorry, Linda looked shell-shocked. Her parents looked like they wanted to disappear. The sheriff handed me the official injunction against her. No more complaints, no more showing up, no more lies to the county. The gate stood as a marker, not just of ownership, but of how far I'd come. Linda, at the end, sat in her car at the bend, engine idling, headlights off, not a word. Like a defeated general watching her last chance slip away. Winter arrived on the mountain with a hush, snow dusting the trees, creek humming under ice. Linda vanished. Her parents sent a letter, apologized, said they hadn't known. The truth. I folded it up, filed it away. The mountain grew peaceful again. Contractors finished the last details. Friends came up to see the place, the guest house warm and inviting. Sometimes I'd walk the property at dusk, looking at the gate not as a barricade, but a threshold to something I'd built, board by board, line by line. In town, people stopped me to say they finally understood. Even the sheriff, passing on Main Street, tipped his hat and said, "Looks like you tamed a ridge." I realized the house wasn't just a project. It was proof that holding your ground matters, that the facts, the law, and a little stubborn patience can outlast the wildest siege. So yeah, when I sit on the porch now, looking down at that locked gate, I remember the convoy stuck in. The mud, the shouts and the thunder and the flash of police lights. I remember what it cost to keep this mountain house mine, not just with steel and paperwork, but with resolve. The siege is over. The land, the house, the silence, all finally mine. And that, after everything, is the best feeling in the world.